What are you doing here? Like, why are you here?
Why are you here? Like, what? What is the goal?
What is the point?
There's no answer.
There's no answer. And I think that's what we're meant to believe.
I'm sick of how hot I am. I get cranky as hell.
Summertime loses its fucking sparkle once you become a fucking adult and you're like, oh, great.
Adults see cartoons.
Oh, hi.
Cool. That was our cat.
Adults do see cartoons, but I wasn't really watching Disney as an adult until I had a child. So, but anyways, it's Olaf is the snowman and he wants to experience summer so bad. And he has a little song called In Summer. And he's like fantasizing about what it would be like if he was in summer and like all the things he would experience. And like, they don't want to tell him that like he would just fucking melt.
That's so sad.
But it's really sweet because he's like, excited about what it would be like to like experience summertime because he doesn't know because he like lives in the freezing cold.
But he's using his imagination.
Yeah. But yeah, summer is my favorite season.
Obviously. Why? Why? Tell us why.
Well,
I was like, I have some ideas, but tell us why.
Well, it is, my birthday is in the summer. I'm a summer baby, so I'm kind of like programmed to like summer because it's like my birthday and I celebrate my birthday. Well, I used to celebrate my birthday like a whole month. I don't really anymore because I kind of grew out of that. But yeah, so I just kind of always liked summer. Also, when you're a kid, you're not in school. You get, it's like...
It's fun.
It's fun. It's summertime.
Like you're doing stuff.
Summertime. Summertime.
And wine.
Summertime, the living season.
There's so many good summertime songs.
Yeah, I mean, I do feel like summer is like this time when it's like, it's hot, you're doing things, you're eating barbecue, you're staying
hanging.
up late.
Yeah.
You're kind of hanging.
Honestly, when you become an adult, you're just hot and still doing the same things that you were doing the rest of the year.
That's so real.
Like, I'm sorry, there's no fucking break. You're not, you know what I mean?
Let me tell you, I'm sick of how hot I am. I get cranky as hell.
Summertime loses its fucking sparkle once you become a fucking adult and you're like, oh, great, it's just another month.
Phone is ringing.
Oh, go ahead.
Hello? It's the universe.
Oh.
Uh-huh. Oh, okay. Hey, Court.
Yeah?
The universe called.
What did they say?
I'll have what she's having. Okay, bye. Do you know the reference?
I feel like I should because I know the phrase but like where does it come from exactly?
It's from the movie When Harry Met Sally.
Okay, yeah, okay,
and,
yes.
And Sally's explaining to Harry they're still friends, and she's like talking about like faking orgasms. He's like, "Come on, women don't fake orgasms." She goes, "No, here it is." And they're in a restaurant. She starts faking an orgasm. She's like, yeah, and like so loud so the whole restaurant hears her. And then like this woman, like this old woman's like, I'll have what she's having. So
yes, actually, yes.
Yes.
Oh, I get it. That's good. Very clever.
You get it because we are synced.
Please explain.
So I'll explain for everybody. So since we are talking about it's a new moon in Cancer, Cancer is a water sign. Cancer sun, Cancer moon, we're welcoming that. And we're talking about a lot of pleasure and enjoyment, especially with Jupiter being in Cancer, which we'll get into all these things. But it's basically like talking about abundance and how when we see other people enjoying themselves, it also reminds us to enjoy ourselves and just be like, oh, I'll take one of those, please.
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
So feeling the pleasure of enjoyment.
This is good. So you kind of started setting the stage. So
Yeah.
let's really get into it.
Let's get in.
Let's get in. We had already talked about it's summer, right? We had the summer solstice for us in the northern hemisphere. For those of you in the southern hemisphere,
it's the winter.
winter.
Yeah.
But over here,
We're hot.
We're hot.
I'm sweating.
We're hot. And the summer coincides with the beginning of Cancer season.
Mm-hmm.
So sun is in Cancer, moon is also in Cancer. And again, we'll kind of come back to that. But you were also mentioning that Jupiter is in Cancer. And I believe we talked about this in our previous episode. So we talked a bit about the gifts of Jupiter being in Cancer, also Venus being in Taurus, right? So again, we're talking about that pleasure. We're talking about the feeling, the goodness, the yumminess. And we just recently had a new shift. So Mars has shifted into Virgo.
Yes.
And Mars has been vacillating between Cancer and Leo for the past like six-ish months or so. Cancer is a place that Mars doesn't love to be in. And it was also retrograde, right?
Yeah, it's been a rough time for Cancer.
And so like Mars has been having a tough time of it, a tough go of it. Mars moving into Virgo just feels a lot more stable.
It does. It feels like we're going to get our shit together.
Yeah. And again, if we're talking about pleasure, if we're talking about experiencing joy, if we're talking about creativity, if we're talking about this yummy movement, I think Mars being in Virgo is really supportive for that. Mm-hmm. It's like a nice stable place for it to be, for us to actually like enjoy. And if we do want to get things done, right? So if we're feeling creative, Mars being in Virgo is a great placement for us to be able to actually get some momentum with our creative ventures.
Yeah, so hoping that now our podcast is going to take off.
Yes, that's what we're hoping. Yeah, because now like some of the minute details will kind of start to fall into place.
Yes,
it's
like getting everything where it needs to be so that it can be created.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and just to remind everybody, Mars is the planet of action. Mm-hmm. So it's the planet that helps you get it done.
Yeah, and Virgo is just more detail-oriented, practical earth sign.
Our producer, John, is a double Virgo.
Yes,
Virgo rising, Virgo sun. Thank goodness.
Thank goodness, yes. So kind of this is all that's happening. And so here we are with a Cancer new moon.
Mm-hmm. Here we are.
Lots of beautiful water.
That's right. Beautiful water.
Mm-hmm.
And Cancer. So why don't we talk a little bit about what is Cancer? Because we're going into Cancer season.
Cardinal water.
Mm-hmm. Like typical water.
Mm-hmm. Cardinal is, again, the beginning of the season. Mm-hmm. So it gets things started. It is self-motivated. I would say it is kind of like a seeker. It is proactive. You know, it's so funny because I think that we often think about the Cancer as being like kind of this like emo, like sensitive, like introverted person. But Cancers are actually pretty like motivated people. I'm married to a Cancer, and he can't sit still.
Yeah.
Like Cancers like to do things.
Yeah, no, they're very, I feel like they're very put together, you know, like in a lot of ways. Like they kind of like, they don't half-ass things. They're detailed.
Yeah,
actually.
they like to actually do things, right? They like to get up and get going. They like to get moving.
I mean, quite literally, I think about the Cancer as like setting up the home. Mm-hmm. Like, I feel like they're not the pioneer. They're not like going out to a homestead. They're like, here's the home. What does it need? Let's get the right things so that we can do the things. You know?
Yeah.
They're very like home-centered, nurturing. The sign is the crab. So that's like, it's very much like a mother sign.
I think of them like the waves, which again is like they're constantly moving, right? There's always that movement.
Well, speaking of which, Cancer is ruled by the moon. And so since its ruling, entity is the moon changes signs every couple of days. So that's why, people will say Cancers are sort of moody because they're like, zoop, 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 zoop. So they're always going up and down.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So in a way, like kind of like the Gemini where you don't know who you're going to get. I feel like with Cancer, sometimes you don't know
Absolutely.
who you're going to get.
Yeah.
I'm a Cancer rising, so I do identify very Cancer. We talked about it.
And do you feel like you can kind of like be moved like the waves, like
Totally.
the tides of the of the
I
ocean?
mean, some people would say I'm unstable, but that was meant to be a joke. Like I'm just unstable. Okay, anyway, you can take that out. Like sometimes the jokes don't work. So Cancer rules over, as far as the body goes, it rules over the breasts, the diaphragm, the womb, the lymphatic system, the vagina, the stomach, and the right eye.
Oh, just the right eye.
Interesting.
Because the eye is right. I don't know. I'm just saying that because
I don't
like
know.
left eye.
I know.
Left
I
eye
feel
'cause
like
the eye is right. You don't know that.
I don't know
That
that.
reference. That's okay.
Are you talking about left eye, the rapper?
Yeah, because she would say, "Why is it left eye? Because the eye is right."
I didn't know that.
Wow. Yeah.
Anyway, a lot of failed jokes today. Cancer's not so funny, but that's all just to say. It's ruling. I feel like Cancer rules the softest parts of us, right? Those are very soft parts. And if I think about like diaphragm, breast, womb, whether or not you have these parts of your body or not,
Yeah.
these are parts that are nurturing,
Yeah.
right? These are parts that nurture not just ourselves, but others. A breast, a womb, that represents something that's like literally giving life to other things, right? And so with that all being said, this is a very sensual, emotional sign.
Yeah.
And I think that leads us to our sort of like main teaching point that we wanted to share with everybody.
Especially the part that you just said that made me go ding, 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 life-giving. When I think of the second chakra, which is what we're going to talk about today, the second chakra, and we'll talk a little bit about the chakra system to set us up, but I just wanted to make this point. The second chakra being this specific chakra, this energy center that is really that represents or symbolizes the giving of life, right? It is associated with production, reproduction, right? So not just producing like children, right? It doesn't have to be just producing children, but producing creativity. It's the center of fertility, of being fertile. And to think about the Cancer, and again, to go back to it being cardinal, it's that spark of creativity. So when I think about the second chakra, I think of the second chakra as being that spark of creativity, and the fifth chakra as being the expression of that then said creativity.
Throat.
But the spark is in the second.
Starts low.
It starts low. So again, we spoke about the chakra system many episodes ago. This is a system that maybe pops up in the Vedas. Everything goes back to the Vedas, honestly.
Most things.
Pretty much everything, goes back to the Vedas. Most things, but pretty much everything. I always go, it goes back. If I don't know where it comes from, I'm like, it's from the Vedas. It's a go-to. Because, I mean, everything pretty much comes from the Vedas, stems from the Vedas. So it's this energetic system that is in alignment with nadis, right? So these energy systems or channels, rather, that run throughout the body. Where these channels overlap, right? There's what do you say, wheels?
Yeah, they're spinning wheels of energy.
Where they overlap is where the chakras are. Where the main chakras are, because they're said to be so many, right? But where the main 7 are located in the body. The 7th actually kind of being outside of the body, right? In our aura.
Above us.
Above us, right above us. And each one correlates with
A different quality, a different focus.
sure a different kind of piece of who we are, the makeup of who we are, and how we can function in the world.
Yeah, and they're very much related to the hierarchy of needs as well. Like the basic hierarchy. Like, the first chakra is like feeling safe, feeling home. It's your root. Quite literally, you got to have roots to grow anything after it. So, and it's like, what comes after that?
Yeah, what comes after that is now it's the we. It's almost like, you start with the I, right? And even before the I, it's almost the first is I would even say like your ancestry. It's your tribe. It's what has like it is the roots. It's what it was established to create to
Your
create,
parents.
to create you to where you are now, your stability, your foundation. And then the second is then how you are able to then expand from there. Right? And this is where we start to now create our own legacy.
That's beautiful. Yeah.
And again, that legacy, it doesn't have to be other human beings, because I don't want it to be just limited to that. I don't want to limit us to being like, well, I guess I got to have some babies.
No, because like I will say, I don't know about you, but I've had a lot of dreams where I've been pregnant or I've actually given birth in my dreams. And I do feel like that usually happens when I am like quite literally giving birth to an idea or a creative project or, anything like that. So I do kind of relate the idea of fertility, not just with literal offspring, but like with, like you're saying, an idea, a project, something that you want to do for sure.
Absolutely. And the element of the second chakra is water too, which is why we really felt like this teaching matched so perfectly with the Cancer new moon, because it's not only kind of that cardinal energy, which is that spark of creativity. It's not just that sense of fertility and creation and that femininity, right? But it's
Or we could also say lunar.
Yeah. I love that. But it is also the element that goes along with it, that fluidity.
Yeah.
Right? Because creativity requires flexibility.
Yeah. It requires you to ebb and flow a little bit. And it's not an energy that's stuck or stagnant. Like I like to think about second chakra that's like balanced and it's flowing. You picture whether it's the ocean waves or a river that's moving. It's movement. There's no, if you ever see like a pond that's stagnant, it gets kind of like mucky and like, some weird shit is growing into it. So like we don't want that. We want the water to be flowing. And part of it flowing is to be flexible.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Which leads us to kind of our main thing today, which we're just really excited about.
Yeah.
We have our first ever guest.
Yes. Yeah. And so I think it's beautiful that we get to talk to someone today about creativity.
Quite literally.
And about being in the flow.
Yeah.
And what that's like.
Yeah. And so we're going to bring her on in just a moment. We chose Arielle Estoria. We know her through work. And we'll give her full bio, but she's an artist, and we're going to have a chat with her about creativity.
Yeah.
Exciting.
Ooh, do I hear her calling right now?
Oh,
She's calling.
pick up the phone. Everybody, we're here with our first ever guest on the Universe Called. It's such a moment. Thank you for being our first
What
guest.
an honor. Wow.
What an honor.
I know.
What
It's
an
really
honor.
cool. And we're so happy to just sit and have a conversation with you. So this is Arielle Estoria, and she is a poet, author, actor, and speaker devoted to storytelling that heals, empowers, and transforms. With a background in psychology and theater, she blends intellect and creativity to craft spaces of vulnerability and self-discovery. A sought-after EMC, speaker, and event host. She brings warmth, intentionality, and connection to conferences, gatherings, and live experiences. Her poetry has led to collaborations with brands like Google, Lululemon, and TEDx, as well as performances on major stages. As a SAG actor, she has appeared in various international campaigns and feature films. Look out. And Arielle is the author of The Unfolding, An Invitation to Come Home to Yourself, Harper One, and the artist behind the spoken word album, The Art of Unfolding.
Which is amazing.
Which is gorgeous.
Thank you. I actually just re-released that too. So with like 3 new poems. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
When was that release?
Today. Literally today.
Okay, literally. Congrats.
I was like,
Yeah,
wait,
thanks.
we just looked at that because we were like
I know,
pulling
yeah.
stuff. I'm like, wait, today. Okay.
Today,
okay.
literally today. So it's a different, it just says The Art of Unfolding Deluxe. So different cover photo and all that fun stuff. Yeah.
So cool. Okay, well, I'm going to check that out today.
We will check that out.
Because we were adding some of your songs to our playlist. We create a playlist with each new and full moon, and we're like, how perfect for our Cancer new moon.
Yeah, to have some of your
I
poems
love
on
that.
there. Yeah. Just really beautiful, gorgeous, just expression of your creativity and your mind and your heart. And it's so deeply felt. So thank you for sharing all of that with
Yeah.
us.
Thank you. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't if you've never had the privilege of being in the same space with Arielle, like, I'm sorry for you. Actually, I'm sorry for you. I hope one day that you will.
I mean, also, just if you want a little Arielle, just get on her IG and follow her, because I feel like you're like a breath of fresh air, and you always have such beautiful words of wisdom or thoughts or just things that are just like of the moment that are just really special and sacred. So get on there, everybody, and follow Arielle.
I think especially right now, I think we just want to acknowledge what's the world is experiencing and what we are experiencing here in Los Angeles. I think we don't want to pretend or act as if like what is happening is happening. And so I think that while we can simultaneously be holding space for that and showing up in the ways that we can, also I think you do a really beautiful job of exhibiting what self-care can look like, and what hope can look like, and what tapping into kind of that like unconditional like love and I don't know, like expansion, which is something we've kind of been talking about.
The word that comes to mind for that is like joy, like inherent joy, like, because that's I mean, don't we feel like, isn't that like who we are as humans?
It's our right.
Naturally?
It's our birthright.
Right.
Really.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you. So check out, if you're looking for a little, it's not to disassociate, but if you're looking for a little hope, if you're looking for a little joy in this time of chaos and, high alert, maybe.
Yeah, and I mean, just to give some context to everybody who's listening, we asked you to come on, and it was such a little kismet moment because we were thinking about who do we want on the show, because we like to have artists.
It was my
and
idea.
astrologers.
It was my idea. I'm taking credit.
It's her idea. And then I was like, yes, Arielle. And I go, text her and ask
Right
her
now.
what her moon sign is.
She goes, text her right now. We were literally having coffee, having a meeting. She was like, text her right now. Ask her what her moon sign is. I was like, okay. And like, I IG'd you. No, because I think we were like talking about something else on IG, like completely different. And I was like, okay, I'm going to message her right now and find out. And you were like, Cancer moon. And I was like,
So it was so perfect.
know.
Are you into astrology? Like, do you know your big 3 or your main? I feel like you and I have talked about this before. Will you remind me?
So I am learning I am in no way an expertise. I am in no way well aware or well educated. I really only know my big three because I went to a yoga retreat and they asked us what it was like as a precursor before we get to, the retreat to get to know people and everything. I did not realize they were printing it out and like putting it in our pamphlet so that like everyone else could also know who we are. And I just put Libra at the time because I grew up extremely evangelical, and every time I tried to ask my mom for my birth date, she asked me why. And I just had to be like, research, so it was really hard to get the information. So I just knew October 1st, I'm a Libra. And that was just kind of like, I didn't know big three. I didn't know any of that. So I went on that retreat and it just said Arielle, Libra. And then everybody else had their suns and their moons and their risings. And I was like, oh, and so they were very upset with me and then made me do it in that moment. And so I am a Libra sun, a Cancer moon, and a Libra rising.
Ooh, double Libra. That's why you're so like beautiful and bright.
That's
I think
why
I
you're
told
so
you that.
beautiful and you have great style.
And teeth. Great teeth.
Wait, is that a Libra thing?
Yeah, I've heard it's a Libra
Apparently.
thing.
Wait,
have
no
you heard
way.
this?
I have heard that. Yes, like very
My sister has
like
great
very
teeth. She's
like
never had
aesthetically
braces.
driven by default. Like I cannot like my sweatsuits are all matching. Like I don't do casual well. I don't know what that who
Or
that
you do
is.
casual well.
Yeah, and like things have to be aesthetically pleasing. Like my husband and I, whenever we like go places, while we were dating, I was finding like the places that were cute and they had a flower wall and it was like really open and clear and windows and all that. And he was like, but is the food good? Like I'll go into a hole in the wall and I'm like, no, it has to be pretty. So that was like one of the first things that we really learned about each other. So every time we find places, it has to be good food.
Wait.
And it has to be aesthetic.
What's his son?
I don't know his son. I know he.
No, you know
No,
his
his
sign.
main
He
sign.
is so
No, his
anti.
main sign.
But he's a Taurus. That's really
Okay,
all
yeah,
I
he's
know.
a
I don't know
Taurus,
his.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's
I
why.
don't know his.
That's
Because he's like,
why.
I don't give a damn. I just want to eat some good food. No, that is a Taurus. That is some Taurus
Yes.
behavior. Typical
Yes.
Taurus
Yes.
behavior.
Well, Libra is Libra and Taurus are ruled by Venus, but I feel like Libra is so much about how do things look.
Yeah.
And Taurus is like,
How
does
does
it taste
feel?
good?
How does it feel? A little bit more
Yeah.
about how does it feel, and then like kind of more the nourishment of it.
Yeah.
And Libra is just more kind of like of the aesthetics. And
Not
the-
saying you're shallow.
No,
No,
but
yeah.
like,
Libra,
that's how it shows
is.
up.
It's the
Yeah.
it's the beauty. It's the beauty of the Venus, which is
Yeah, I love
mean,
that.
which is the creativity, the art. Like
Mm-hmm.
I mean, artists, creative.
Yes.
Like not saying that Taurus aren't, but the expression of it is just different than a Libra.
Different.
Yeah.
So true.
Totally.
Yeah.
So double Libra with that Cancer moon.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
okay, I was gonna say, how does the Cancer moon part show up for you? Do you feel a connection to that?
Sure. So from what I know about it, if when I tell people my big three, they're like, wow, a lot of emotions. I'm like, yeah, I'm a poet. And so from what I know of the Cancer moon side of it is just my ability to, I think this is where the balance also of the Libra energy comes in. It's like, yeah, I know how to be in the sunlight and in the flow of things, but I'm also like, I don't mind a shadow because I know a shadow means light somewhere, and so it's like that duality and that balance. But from what I know of the Cancer side is that it's just very emotive. I'm very in my feelings, and sometimes it's very hard to not take everything so personally. That is just the fault of it. So those are the things I know, but I'm open to learning more.
Yeah. So, okay, tell us a little bit about what you like your journey to like where you have like how you have gotten to where you are as far as like a creative, but also we'd like to know a little bit about like your yoga journey as well and maybe how the two are in relationship with one another.
Sure. So I've kind of been drawn or driven to creativity since I was a little girl. I like to say that like my childlike self like really knew that we would be Arielle Estoria. Estoria is my middle name, and it's also just become my pen name or my artist name. But when I was a kid, I would like walk around and I have a feather boa, and like in every, family video, it's like in the background, it's this raspy little kid who's like, Daddy, look at me. Like, Daddy, did you see that? And I have a song ready and a performance ready. And I had a whole alter ego, and I called her Erica Wallace. And I would put on my Erica Wallace to perform and to, do a show for whoever would, it doesn't matter who. It could have been my baby sister at the time, but as long as somebody was looking at me, I was going to perform. And so I like to say she kind of always knew who we were going to be. And so my journey to artistry was just very sprinkled in and throughout. And the next touch point from there was like middle school for history. We did a whole Midsummer's Night's Dream performance. And my history teacher was like, telling my parents, like, you have to put her in the arts. Like this, everyone else is doing this because they need the grade. She does this. And so from there, I went to an arts high school. I went to Oakland School for the Arts in 10th grade. Yes. It took a while because I was just in a lot of private Christian schools. And my parents were like, okay, fine. She clearly is good at this. Like if she auditions and gets in, she can go. So I auditioned. And I got in. So I went there for high school, and that is when everything really opened up for me because I was going to school, doing my academics from 8 to 12. And then I was taking a lunch break, and then I was doing my theater from 1 to 4:30. And then if I was in a show, I was there till 10, 11 o'clock at night. Our high school was in the Fox Theater as well. So we got all our performances were on the Fox stage. And so that dichotomy of like, oh, I can do an educational thing and an art thing led me into college where I double majored in theater and psychology. And at that point in time, I still didn't think, oh, I'm doing this. Like, this is what I'm going to do. This is who I'm called to be. It was like, this is a cute little extracurricular thing, but I'm going to pursue psychology so that I could do art therapy for kids because like that feels like a great way of balancing it all together. So I worked with kids on the spectrum and gifted children for a long time doing play therapy. But all the while I was still getting asked to perform or getting asked to do poetry or getting asked to do, one act plays. And I just kept finding myself on the stage, no matter how much I involved in leadership in college, no matter how much I tried to do like student council and everything else, I always found myself back on stage. And it wasn't until like my junior or senior year where I was like, okay, universe, God, whoever, if this is what you want me to do, I'll do it. I'm saying yes, but like you have to make it very clear, And the moment I graduated, I got nothing but just opportunity after opportunity after opportunity. So I was like, let's just do this for a while and see how it goes. And that was in 2015. I graduated in college, and I've been doing it ever since.
Wow.
I'm sorry. You graduated from college in 2015?
I did.
She's young.
Oh my God. Wow, sweet.
Look at her.
Baby.
Just a baby.
Look at you.
Actually, Arielle is a grown woman. We're just
Yes.
we're in our witch era or something.
I love it.
No. Well, we're not quite crones yet.
I mean, I'm ready to play one of the witches in Macbeth. You know what I mean?
No,
I don't know if I'm like even Lady M anymore.
no, you're a lady M.
I think I might have aged out.
No.
I don't know.
Oh, not me. I rebuke
you're
that.
Lady
I
M.
fucking rebuke that. I'm still in my mother era. I'm sorry. I'm mother era.
Right.
I'm not crone yet.
Right.
Y'all, I
But
saw
I'm
a
not
breakdown.
maiden. She's a maiden.
Yeah, no, you're Juliet.
No, not according to most things. I too am in my mother era.
Hun.
Okay, you
only
could be
get
like
cast
a
as
Lady
moms.
Capulet right now. Like
You're
Lady
a
Capulet is like 30.
maiden.
Oh, that'd be amazing. I would love
Yeah.
that.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
sweet babe. I love it. Okay, so where does yoga come? Where does yoga come
So
in?
yoga came in about like maybe sophomore year, and it actually came through mostly Zumba. So like my first this is movement where I have found myself, and it's me and the 60-year-old abuelitas on a Saturday morning, and we are just
Where are
sweating
we?
and moving, and it was across the street from my college. And so that's where I like movement opened up for me. Like I've always loved to be outside. I've always been a walker, but like I really wasn't active necessarily. And so it wasn't until Zumba, and then from Zumba came hot yoga, and it started at Hot 8 actually. And I just worked front desk for a while there, and actually met Sarah, who's also a teacher at One Down Dog. And she is actually the first person who like kind of brought me into the yoga world. And she was like, you should really consider, a membership. Like, it seems like you come here more. And it was just the first class I ever took. I was like, whoa, I can hear myself. I'm listening to my body. I didn't know how much my body spoke to me just because I grew up very disembodied, and I wasn't really allowed or given permission to be in my body. So I found myself kept trying to find places where I could be in my body, and realized how active she was, and how much she listened, and how much I was really more in tune with her than I thought I was. And so from working front desk, then COVID happened, and I found myself still practicing with a floor heater and just like still being in that space. And then I got my teacher training in 2021. It's like weird, half COVID, half not COVID. And I went to a small studio in Sierra Madre and learned from mostly women of color. And I was like, oh, I didn't know shit before, like I knew nothing before. And so the last couple years, like I sprinkle teach on and off, but so much of what I learned in my teacher training shifted how I showed up on the mat, and shifted how I went into a studio that's very, white centered and whitewashed here in Los Angeles. And so it completely transformed how I showed up. And I've been practicing yoga for over 10 years now, which has been really special and such a gift. And it's a practice I always say, I'm trying to do this until I'm not here anymore, because it's my favorite to watch, older women in class and being like, just from a history of bodies that, get so frail and so crippled so fast. I'm like, I need to be able to move until I can't anymore. And so it's just been a very tender process, but one I kind of had to fight for and fight to, just because, my dad's a pastor, and yoga is still a very, questionable practice to tap into. And so there was a lot of convincing me to do Jesus yoga, and I didn't know how to tell him that was appropriation. So we found our way regardless. But it's been something that I've continuously loved and just like embraced even more so. And it was just that one space where I was like, whoa, there's a lot happening in here. And it was like the one space where I felt like I could hear the most and listen and respond in return. Yeah.
You talked a little bit about how you felt like more in your body after beginning your yoga practice and your yoga journey, and how you possibly felt a little disembodied, right?
Yeah.
So I'm interested to know, like, I know for me, when I started, this is a lead. I'm not going to lead you. Actually, let me not lead you. Look at that. Okay, so so my question is, aside from the physicality of it and just feeling more connected to your physical body, are there other ways in which the yoga practice affected or informed you as a performer or creative person? Like, I just interested in like how that shifted once you connected to this practice.
Yeah, no, I love that. Well, because I feel like so much of what I learned in my teacher training, it countered so much of what I had been told, that it was demonic, that you're going to create spirits and invite spirits. And it was like a lot of fear around it. So I really had that learned response to it when I first started my yoga training. And then very quickly over time, so much of it just got dismantled and disseminated, because it was like, oh, this is to understand yourself and people better. Like, oh, this is not like even the idea of, the aspects of quote unquote different gods was just so that people could find something that felt approachable to them. So it didn't feel, it didn't feel like it was chain oriented or created lack of freedom in it. And so much of that was just like these little fireworks that just kind of like went off and dismantled these old notions and these old stories. And so in that, I mean, just even in my teacher training alone, I wrote so much because I often say it. I call the process, for myself at least, I call the process of writing spilling, because more often than not, I'm just like intaking so much and I cannot help but put it out somewhere. So in those 200 hours, there was so much new and so much explorative and so much expansion that was happening that I was like, I just would be writing poems, like in between our sessions and things like that. And so yes, physical entirely, but also so much of that physical starts internally. And there was so much shifting in my framework of how to show up, how to exist. Am I listening to myself? Am I listening to the world around me? And I've always been a bit of a mystic, or a bit of the the trees are speaking kind of person. And it really just gave space and gave name to all of that in the most beautiful way. I think anything that I've experienced or that I've encountered shapes who I then become, and then thus shapes and shifts how I then create. And so much of that practice, if anything, helped me to be a lot more free. I think because I was able to be a little less hindered by the assumptions or the fears of other people, I then was able to create things like the art of the unfolding, where I'm like, this is the Satya, like this is the truth. And I don't know, I can't be the person to keep it from myself and from the rest of the world, because that is the disservice, like that is the dishonoring. And so, yeah, it daily shapes, it daily chisels, and it also just feels really great at the same time.
So much of what you said was so beautiful, especially just kind of about the experience of being in your body. And you kept on talking about learning how to listen and listening to the world and listening to yourself. And then something that really stood out to me of what you said was like, when you write, it's almost, you call it spilling, which I just think is so interesting as a water moon, that, because I always picture Cancer as like the emotional writer. That's like the kind of archetype in my mind.
Yeah.
And it's just like, to me, it just feels, because in this episode, we are talking about second chakra. So we're talking about abundance, pleasure, enjoyment, creativity, all those things. To me, I was just like, oh, when Arielle said spilling, it just made me think about like the sacral area of our bodies, just kind of like, I always think about it like as a bowl of water.
Yeah.
And it just made me think like, it's like the cup overfloweth, or whatever that saying is. And just like feeling the abundance of your own abundance, quite literally.
Of your own abundance, of your own creativity, of your own worth, of your own value, of your ownness. But what also, because you were saying such good stuff that we both were like, and I was like, we both just like, but I think what I thought was so fascinating was, because of your upbringing, astrology and yoga, these two kind of modalities that are useful or can be useful in knowing ourselves maybe more better or with more clarity, are frightening, right? To a very maybe a very religious, staunch religious background, or from that viewpoint, from that vantage point. And so these kind of two things, right? You're like, oh, I didn't really learn about astrology because my mom was always like, what? Why do you want to know that? Or like, when I first got introduced to yoga, I was, having to kind of dismantle all of these preconceived notions that I had about what yoga was because of my upbringing. But these two modalities are ways that we can maybe know ourselves more more intimately. And when we're talking about second chakra, you know, I want to say that, you know, and it might be guilt, but I also think that shadow of it is like shame, you know, feeling shame or feeling guilt about the pleasures of the body. And a theme that I felt very deeply in the art of the unfolding when I listened to it, right? When listening to it fully, like through, is this reclamation of your body and the pleasure of being in your body. And you even spoke about of showing yourself, right? Being naked or something of that sort, right? Yeah. I just find it so inspiring and also interesting that you know, this Cancer moon that you're like, I don't know much about, but it's we're kind of seeing that it might be showing up in your ability to kind of find flow in this reclamation, this honoring of the pleasure of being in your body and being in your the feeling of your body, you know, and being able to express that.
Yeah, I love that.
Through your creativity.
Yeah.
And becoming more intimate, because we're talking about Cancer, right? Cancer is about intimacy. Yeah. And it's not just about being intimate with others, but it's about being intimate with ourselves.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And as you kind of have moved through this yoga practice and you're kind of dabbling in astrology and even in your creativity, you are creating a more intimate relationship with yourself. And in doing so, when you're sharing that with us, you are encouraging others to develop a more intimate relationship with themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that. I think, well, you know, even the album is an extension of my book, and my book is The Unfolding, an invitation to come home to yourself. Because I think that is the most intimate place a lot of times we can exist, is our home. You know, we are nude in our home, we shower in our home, we eat, and we do so much life in our home. You know, the conversations that only the walls know, all of that exists in our home. And so for me, it's always been, how do I come back here? And then how do I be then a permission slip for other people to learn how to come back here? And it's not that we come home and then we harbor and we become, you know, recluse. It's that we come home and we know how to treat ourselves there, how to exist there, so that then we can, you know, I love noticing people in their own home. I love seeing how, you know, their home is set up and how it's reflections of them. It's so that I can then understand other people and notice that in other people, of like, what does coming home look like for them? Like, what is intimacy? What does closeness look like and feel like for them? And how do I elicit more places and create more spaces where people feel comfortable enough to do that, you know?
Home.
Yeah.
Such a Cancer
thing. It is like you're like
as soon
in
as
their
she
home
said
learning
home,
about it.
I was like,
know. There it is.
Yep, there it is.
Yes.
Yeah. But also I will say, like, whenever somebody is vulnerable, or let me go back, whenever somebody gets intimate with themselves, right? And they get to know themselves well, which to me feels like a constant journey. I don't know if y'all feel like that. For me, I'm like, oh, I'm learning that about myself, or it's changing.
Yeah.
And whenever we do that, and then we take that information and to me, it feels like an offering. It feels really generous to be vulnerable with others and be like, here is my heart. Like, you know, like your album and your book sounds very intimate, and like I listened to the album. I haven't read the book, but it's like to feel like you're offering up a piece of yourself to everybody. Yeah. And then when we do that, it really does encourage other people to go, wow, that gives me strength to explore maybe going into a yoga class, or maybe getting to know myself and writing something. You know, it's so inspiring. And to me, it just feels so freaking abundant. Where like I go back to that feeling of like, it's like abundance begets abundance. It's just like, it's not lacking anything to give. It's like you give and there's more to give.
And with that being said, though, because I'm trying to get away from buts. I'm trying to get away from
love
butts.
that. I love that.
Because
And
it's just like
she's doing a yes
Yes.
and.
Yeah, because
And.
two things can be true.
Yeah.
And I
Yes.
feel like butts, it's an automatic shutdown of the thing that was said
Yeah.
before. And it's like, I don't necessarily know if that's always the case.
Yeah.
And also, though, as a creative, and as somebody who does give so generously, there may be times where you feel like your cup is starting to
The cuppeth is emptying.
Yes.
How do you fill up that pond? How do you
and so
keep
Yeah.
it
what
with the koi
inspires
fish?
you? Like, how do you stay fresh? And
I definitely don't. I don't force it. So I had an interview last week, and she was like, "Oh, you posted this quote, and I don't know, when it was inspired." And I was like, in that moment, most of my page exists in that moment. I don't schedule or plan out anything except for maybe a sponsored post, but everything else, every other quote, every other random video, I most likely did that day or the day before, and I posted it that day or the day after, so all of it exists in like really real time. And I've made myself very available to what comes, that I never let the inspiration, not now or not this moment, again, because it mostly is a spilling. So I tend to take everything in that moment. So most of, how I pour out exists in very real time and in very real moments, of just like being at a museum, and I will disappear because a painting sparked something and I need to write that poem right now, a date with my husband, and that is my poem Glorious on Spotify, like that, just things that happen in very real moments. And so because of that, I think also the rest has to happen in very real moments. I feel it. Usually feel the emptying of the cup in the moment that it's being emptied. But I do think there is so much abundance that I'm able to pour out of, like weekends like this, where I kept intaking, I kept experiencing, I kept feeling. And so I just kept having more to outpour. And I know that's why I'm moving the way I'm moving today. It's why I slept in. It's why I didn't make it to a class till 10:30, and then meandered to the grocery store, and then meandered back home, and then had a snack, and did this. And I've been trying to figure out for the last 2 hours if I'm going to trek to LA, and I'm probably not, because all of it is happening in real time where I'm like, oh, the cup is empty, so today is the refilling up. And I'm not always like I haven't always been the greatest advocate of my rest. I have a partner and a husband who's really good at being like, do you actually want to do that? Do you have capacity for that right now? All things that I never asked myself. I just kind of moved and extinguished off of fumes. And I've been trying to get really a lot better at listening to what feels authentic for me in that moment, whether that be the outpouring or whether that be the pulling back and the resting. And so it usually involves, going outside or cleaning my home, physically doing something to restore my space around me is really important. And giving myself permission to not leave anywhere. Going is an outpouring, no matter where I'm going or what I'm doing. Oftentimes it feels like any going is just in itself an outpouring. And so I make myself have days where I do not leave my house. I have what I need inside. I make what I need inside, and I harbor myself. And I need a day or two, especially after days of just pouring and pouring and pouring and pouring, but I haven't always been so good at finding that balance.
Girl, you a real Cancer moon for real, okay? I don't know what I'm like, oh, I just need to stay inside and like go in my shell
and clean my
house. And it's like, honey, you are a Cancer moon.
Yeah, and then like go out to dinner with my husband.
Babe, double Libra with a Cancer moon. Like, you are literally that.
Whoever says astrology is not real
people. I mean,
Just
I just
watch this episode.
don't understand these people. I don't understand these people.
Like it's just like right there for us.
What? I'm like, no, you are a Cancer moon.
Yeah.
This is great.
Yeah, and I mean,
I love it.
it sounds like so much about all of it. Like just what I'm hearing you say is that like you're just paying attention to shit. Whether it's like you're paying attention to yourself, your own energy, you're paying attention to the world around you, and you're allowing it to affect you. And also like living. I don't know if either of you like read like Stanislavski's like books about acting, and like he talks about the importance of like going out and just like living. He's like travel, have fun with your friends and like people you love, and like watch movies. Like that's how you become an artist.
Do life. Yeah. Do
Like,
life, listen, pay attention, let yourself be affected by things, let yourself see things. All of that feels very true. And I think a lot of that too is also the counter to growing up. And it was like, we can't listen to our bodies because our bodies are going to, tell us things that are not of God or not of divinity. And so much of that is countering old stories where I spent a really long time not listening and, always outpouring because that was the holy and righteous thing to do. And until I had nothing, until my parents had nothing. And I was like, I can't keep doing that. And then I married a very balanced human who loves to say no when he genuinely doesn't feel it. And I still have this like visceral response where I'm like, no, but we have to, but we don't, but there's still so much that counters. But I think, I'm like finally in the next wave of learning how to listen. And it feels, sometimes it still makes me want to throw up because I'm still a people pleaser at the end of the day, but the trueness feels the most settled. And that is something that I always try to listen to.
It's so beautiful. Well, we do have to wrap up,
Yeah,
I think time-wise, but
we'll have, there was like one last question I'd like to end with, but you kind of already answered it. So just if you have like any last advice, it's a new moon, right? So it's about planting seeds. Cancer, new moon. And we did have a question written down, like, what's your advice to someone who's experiencing a creative block? But I think maybe a better way to frame that is, for the creative, right? And I think we all are. I think we all are in some way, shape, or form.
Yes, absolutely.
But, at this time, right, setting intention around like this creativity, around this flow, what is some advice, or maybe like what, and you kind of answered it, which is why I said, what are some things that you do? We talked about like just being outside, experiencing life, but like, what can you leave, our listeners with a little nugget that might serve them during this time with this like new moon, as they set intentions around maybe wanting to birth something, creativity, create creatively.
I think it's similarly to, the but and conversation. I've really tried to take out like the language of like creative blocks or creatively stuck or these, those phrases, because what if it's just actually your body? Like you said, we've outpoured so much. You need a beat. You're not blocked. You're not stuck. You just need a moment. And there's no real time frame for what that moment looks like. But when you're tapped back in, and you will absolutely know it. And so that comes though from trusting your gift and trusting whatever that gift is, trusting your artistry, trusting your lane, trusting whatever your abundance is, trusting that it does exist within abundance and will always come back tenfold. And so to allow yourself that release and that pressure to not force it is so important. And then also thus remembering that the creating is in everything, just in the same way that we say yoga is you breathing, is you existing, is you in community with each other. I think you creating is also very similar, just because you didn't put something to the page or, pick up a paintbrush or write something incredibly, and fantastic or add another page to your novel. You still showed up, you still breathed, you still existed in community with people. You still hopefully touched grass or did a little dance in your car or sang a note on accident in your shower, all of that, like, counts as creativity. And I think we have these really harsh guidelines on ourselves of like, I knocked out this big goal, especially in Los Angeles. It's what are you working on and what's your next thing? And we're just constantly inundated with that. We need to be constantly producing, and we've associated that with always having to create, but we can't always create. In the same way that seasons don't always bloom, we as humans can't always produce things all the time. And so reframing, trusting, and leaning in, I think would be the advice.
That's beautiful. I love that.
Yeah.
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 Wow. Look at that smile.
I know. Look at those teeth. She's like, keep going.
Gorgeous, gorgeous human being inside and out.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for
You
being
too,
here.
both of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
We are so honored to have had you.
Yeah, this is huge.
Yeah, lucky us. Thank you so much for gracing us today.
Of course.
Yes. And then is there, just one last thing. Is there anything that you want to plug, that you want to let people know about? We're going to put it in the show notes, but I don't know if you have something else you wanted to
the
plug.
album, feel free to listen through. You can listen to the deluxe version, I guess. It's just 3 new added poems. One is called Alive Enough to Notice, which initially the poem was called Attacked by a Butterfly, and I just didn't want to put attacked on there, so it's called Alive Enough to Notice. Bloom and Radiate, which is like an ode and a conversation to Black women. And then the other one is oh my goodness, we just renamed these. Alive Enough to Notice, Bloom and Radiate. Oh, and This Is for Win, which is a conversation of just celebrating the moments that you have, and also this idea of being our ancestors' wildest dreams lived out loud. So those are the 3 new tracks. Feel free to listen. And then the book, The Unfolding, is available wherever you listen or read books. Yeah.
Wonderful. And we'll have those in the show notes for everybody. Thank you so much, Arielle.
Thank you.
Such a joy. We'll see you around.
See you around. See you soon.
The Universe Called podcast with Natalie Burtney and Courtney Sauls. Filming and editing by John Meyer. Theme music by Chit Cray, Studio Inertia. Special thanks to Donna and Robbie Falks.